Hello, creative, and welcome back to the Empowered Creatives podcast, finding confidence between hustle and burnout. I'm your host, Victoria Hines, creative career coach, helping creatives just like you level up or find your next path in your career. With both clients, prospective clients, and friends, I have had one of the same conversations over and over and over again, and it always goes or sounds a little something like this. Victoria, I loved music, but now that I've been working for a nonprofit orchestra for years, the idea of listening to music or even creating music in my spare time doesn't light me up anymore. Victoria, I don't love writing anymore. It's all right and I'm good at it, but doing it for clients sucks. Victoria, auditioning is the job as an actor, but I never actually get to act, which is the thing that I love. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. Or Victoria, my passion is gone. I used to love spending hours working with my friends on a new script, and now I feel like I don't have any creative ideas left. I'm just squeezing creativity out of me in my work, and it's draining me. Or Victoria, I still love theater, but I really don't want to rely on it anymore to pay the bills. I'm just exhausted and I'm tired. Or Victoria, I was so excited about this career and now the idea of going into work every day fills me with dread. Or Victoria, I don't want to work on another project with no pay and too many hours. I've been doing this for years. Haven't I paid my dues already? If you haven't caught on, every single one of these conversations is about misalignment at work. It's that moment where we've realized this isn't working anymore. The thing that we loved, the dream that we had built for ourselves, the passion that we once had has been drained or disfigured or marred or has just altogether disappeared. And as much as we want to just reach back into the past and pull that previous version of ourselves forward, we can't. We are in a moment where we can't go back. We're in this moment now. We're exhausted. We're drained. We're dreading work. We're frustrated. All we can do is move forward. So, the way forward is to diagnose what's going on right now in this current moment. What is leading to the dissatisfaction you are experiencing right now? Real quick, I'm going to interrupt this podcast to tell you about a really nifty tool that I've made just for you. As creatives, it's so easy to find ourselves lost in jobs that we don't really like. So much so that when we decide to find a day job or support job that we actually enjoy, we have no idea where to start. This is where a creative career audit comes in. Head to the show notes below to grab the link to my download, and you can get your free workbook that will help you identify what brings you joy and what drains you in the world of work. No more day jobs or support jobs that make you just feel inside. It's time to find something that's going to light you up again. So, the 5 reasons that misalignment happens. Number 1, comparison. Trying to do the work the way someone else would. We've all fallen into this trap. Whether you're an artist, creative, an entrepreneur, or frankly doing anything, all of us can fall into the comparison trap. Oh, my neighbor's doing it that way, or oh, that person on Instagram is doing it that way, then I should be doing it that way too. And except the second you start doing it that way, you burn yourself out. So the comparison trap for me, I'm going to share a little bit story of I fell into the comparison trap really hard with Instagram. Something I learned as an entrepreneur is consistency is key. So I decided to dive straight in and I was like, great, I'm going to post 5 times a week on Instagram. If any of you listening are content creators out there, you know that posting 5 times a week without any sort of help or backup, you're just creating the content yourself, is exhausting. What's more, social media is really good at this. You start comparing yourself to everybody else. And you start wondering, why is my work not as good as theirs? How in the world do they have enough hours in the day to produce something of that caliber or quality? I've talked to so many visual artists who it's so easy for them to fall into the trap of, well, they're doing it so much better, so why should I even try? Misalignment can oftentimes happen in our careers because of comparison. We start doing something the way somebody else would do it, and very quickly we realize doing it that way is not aligned to who we are. Which brings me to the second reason misalignment happens is we are operating outside of our zone of genius. For those of you who haven't heard of the zone of genius is a term that means you are relying on your strengths instead of focusing on your weaknesses. One of my favorite stories of this case and example is when I was working in the nonprofit theater, I was tasked with hiring a development intern for a benefit. So I needed somebody to help me do a bunch of like the manual tasks that go together into putting together a benefit, which it's a lot. In return for being an intern, I also taught them a lot about the fundraising world and how that works. So my pickings one year were very, very, very slim. So I ended up bringing on an intern, and we're just going to call him John for this story. So I ended up bringing on intern John, and John was an interesting choice. Would not have been my first choice, but honestly, they were my only choice, and I really needed the extra hand. What I loved about John, though, was his passion for the music industry. He was so interested in becoming a part of that industry. However, he was working for a nonprofit theater company. And towards the end of his internship, part of my role, because he was doing for college credit, was to sort of write an analysis to send to his career advisors. And I was honest. I was like, you know what? He's really smart. He's able to pick things up. But I think he would go a whole lot further by making sure he works in the music industry, or whatever the work he's doing down the road is directly aligned with the music industry and not the theater world. Because I could tell John had no interest in theater, and yet he spent 6 months working with me. That was a classic case of misalignment. The third reason misalignment can happen in your career is a lack of focus. And I don't mean this as you're not focused and putting your head down and doing hard work. I mean, all of your energy is used up, not where it is needed, or rather, we aren't seeing results from our energy expenditure. So when we have a lack of focus on our careers, we end up it's kind of that idea of like, let me just put my eggs in 1,000 baskets, or just toss spaghetti up against the wall and hope that something sticks. But if we keep doing that day after day after day after day after day, that's exhausting. Classic example of this was my journey of running around town to every single theater audition. Woo! I spent about 3 years going to every single possible audition I could, even if that theater company was not producing a single play that year where there was a role where I could have played. I told myself that, nope, it's a chance to get out there, it's a chance to audition, I need to do that. I quickly realized, though, I was going to burn myself out if I kept in that direction. Instead of going after every single theater company, every single play, just trying to toss spaghetti up against the wall, which honestly, I was operating from a scarcity mindset. Instead of that, I could have been more specific and asked myself, hey, Victoria, what is the work you actually want to be doing? And how do you get closer to those people? It took me years to realize that would have been a much more strategic approach, and I would have burned out a lot less quickly. One of the most brilliant things I heard from a friend who was an actor during the pandemic was, instead of telling the world, hey, I want to be an actor, which is honestly kind of one of the most generic goals that you can tell to the world. And most people are like, oh boy, here we go. It's the actor again. She realized, I love acting, and it's not that I'm going to turn down any project if I think it's right for me. However, what I really want to be doing is I want to be a voiceover actor for anime. And I just sat there and I realized that is effing brilliant. The second she said, I want to be a voiceover actor for anime, I haven't forgotten it. And the reality is, anytime she says that to somebody, instantly we start thinking about, oh, who do I know that's in that world? Who do I know who does voiceover? Who do I know who does anime more specifically? Can I help her? Can I connect her to those people? All of us as humans want to help each other. And when you're able to have a focus or an energy that's going in one specific direction, it's much, much easier to help other people or to enlist other people to your aid. The fourth reason we hit misalignment in our careers is our heart isn't in it. A lot of the quotes or the stories I shared with you at the very beginning are classic examples of this. It's that moment when our passions run out. We don't really love it anymore. Or our belief in the mission and the goals and what we're going after has faded away. This is definitely how I knew it was time to move on from my theater administration job. It wasn't that I didn't still love the people or thought that there was value in the work, but overall, my heart just wasn't in the mission anymore. I needed a new passion project or something to fill me up again. I didn't know how to keep expending my energy day after day over and over and over again for something that I wasn't quite sure I had faith in. If your heart isn't in it, it's very easy to quickly realize it's time for a shift and it's time for a change. The fifth and final reason that you might be experiencing misalignment in your career is a lack of a challenge. When you are no longer experiencing growth or you've outgrown where you are at, it is a very quick way to realize this moment, this career, this job, right now, in this moment, it's not for you. It's not the right path. I've definitely experienced this a lot of times in more my day jobs or technical jobs or with companies I've worked for. But I also experienced this in the acting world. For many, many years, I was actually understudying, which for those of you who don't know what understudying is, in the acting world, that means you're sort of the second stringer. You learn all the lines and you can go on in the case that one of the actors in the show can't. So it's a lot of work. You get very little rehearsal, and you're just kind of expected to, if the case arises, you might have to go on and you just have to keep the show afloat. And kill it if you're able to. After about the third or fourth understudy gig, though, I kind of realized that doing more understudy gigs, especially for smaller theater companies, was not going to help me grow as an actor. I needed to start saying no because I wanted to grow. And my resentment was going to keep on growing if I keep saying yes to projects where I was going to feel stuck and feel like I wasn't reaching that next level in my career. So, as a reminder, the 5 reasons why misalignment might happen in your career. Number 1, comparison. 2, operating outside your zone of genius. 3, a lack of focus. 4, your heart isn't in it. Or 5, a lack of a challenge. Here's your one thing this week. If you are feeling misaligned in your career right now, I want you to identify what's causing it. Is it comparison? Is it because you're operating outside your zone of genius? Is it a lack of focus? Is it because your heart isn't in it? Or is it a lack of a challenge? Your first step this week is to just identify what is causing misalignment. Now, if you're wanting to go a step further and wanting some help to figure out how do you adjust from there, feel free to hop onto Instagram and send me what you discovered. Which of those 5, and it could be multiple of the 5, is causing the misalignment in your career, and let's have a conversation. So with that being said, if you're enjoying the podcast, definitely subscribe, rate, review. It's the easiest way for you to show love back to the Empowered Creatives and to me as well. Until next week, stay creative.